Okay, this is what we call our inspiration segment. We've been talking to this young man for several weeks, and we're glad he made it, Jack Clunan. And Jack, you have an extremely inspirational story. 3 liver transplants.
Yeah, yes, as a baby.
Why don't you share your story with us and what you've been through in your life?
All right, well, I'll just go. Takes a while, so I'll just go through the highlights. So as you mentioned, I had 3 liver transplants. That was as a baby. And then I had my 3rd transplant by the time I was 2. So, you know, fast forward 16 years. About 2 months after I graduated high school, I wasn't feeling real well, and I had some tightness in my chest. So I went to the doctor. Turns out I had a mass in my chest, and bone marrow biopsies would later reveal that I now had leukemia. I would receive chemotherapy for 25 months. The chemo destroyed my joints and my teeth. I now have hearing aids, a hip replacement, and these are dentures. Or as I like to call it, the senior citizen hat trick.
Wow.
Oh, and now he has me on the show because I'm a comedian, motivational speaker, and an EMT. So, thank you for having me. I know it took a couple tries.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. You have been through so much. It's really amazing. Are you totally in the clear now? Totally in good health? All the things you in the past now? Would you say?
You know, well, at this point, it's one day at a time. You know, I'm superstitious, so I'm never gonna say that, but I'm at the healthiest I've ever been at this point, so I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. And I can imagine you make motivational speeches and you talk about you've had 3 liver transplants, you had 25 months after that of chemotherapy, you beat leukemia. So I can imagine when you make speeches, you really have a way of inspiring people. And I'm sure that you get a lot out of that, out of speaking to people and inspiring them with your story.
Yeah, I do, and one of the reasons I enjoy motivational speaking, and I don't know if you've seen it in my clips, I joke about what I've been through in the hospital a lot, but one of the reasons why it means so much to me is because, you know, it's such a bad experience. It could have been such a bad experience, but I'm able to just turn that around, and it feels good to be able to use that for good things now and help other people and show them that they can get through whatever they're going through. So that means a lot to me to be able to do that. So.
That's great. I would imagine that going through what you've been through, especially so young, having 3 liver transplants before you're 2 years old, I would imagine you have a very strong family that helped you get through this. Talk about your family's role in what you've had to deal with in your young life.
You know, as you know, I'm at the ripe old age of 24. So, but as I get older, I'm realizing how much more that my family has helped me get through everything. Like, people think I'm strong when they hear about it. I couldn't even imagine, you know, what my parents went through or having to be in them. So that's where I get my strength from, my mom and my dad and my brother Chris and everybody else in my family. But really, it's just, I wouldn't be where I am today. I'd probably be in a room crying every day if it wasn't for my parents and my brother. So they really are the reason I'm doing what I'm doing.
That is so awesome, Jack. And talk about how you got into stand-up comedy. I mean, that's amazing. How'd you get into that?
Well, I always wanted to do it, literally since I was probably in like elementary school. I don't know, I just always saw myself on stage. I enjoyed making people laugh. And as you just heard, I wasn't healthy enough to do it for the longest time. And then, strangest of coincidences, long story short, my brother was working at a bank, and this guy comes in. He cashes his last check. He just sold his pizza place to become a full-time stand-up comic, and my brother told him about me. And long story short, he had me do his beginner's contest. My first time ever on stage was in a bagel store, believe it or not. So people like me, like, where'd you start? Governor's, you know, Broadway, Strathmore Bagel Store. That's where I started. But no, I always wanted to do it for a long time, and as it would help me get through the times in the hospital. I had a notepad with me, and I would just write jokes and try them out on my doctors and nurses. They sucked back then, but it was just something I always wanted to do, so I did it.
Now, how about later in the show doing a comedy routine for us? Are you up for that?
You know, usually at this point when people ask me that, I say, check out my clips or come to a show. But I think I might be able to give you a little something.
All right. That sounds good. Who are some of the comedians that have inspired you, that you really kind of get a motivation from?
You know, I'm a clean comic myself, so I tend to like the cleaner comics. But it's funny, like when I was writing my jokes, and even now, I don't try to write my material like after somebody. I just try to be my own comedian. Like I'm not trying to be the next, you know, Chris Rock or whoever you want to say. I'm trying to be the first Jack Cloonan, if that makes any sense. So, you know, I watch a lot of comedy, so I pick up things, you know, that I like and I don't like. But I mean, really, it's just I like to be my own version of my comedian. So.
That is so cool. And talk about how you got into motivational speakers and what type of corporations or people have reached out to you to say, hey Jack, we want to hear your story. Can you share your story? Can you motivate our group? How did that come about?
Well, that's a bit of a long story too. So I don't know if you're familiar with the Mets at all. The Mets. I wasn't alive then, but the '86 Mets that won the World Series.
You know, can I be honest with you?
Yeah.
That's a very bad memory for me. I'll tell you why. That is a really bad memory for me. Rocco, follow me here. That is a really bad memory. He had to bring up 1986. I brought this jacket. And I'm going to have to wear this, you know, for the segment now. So, 1986, Jack, was one of my worst memories being a sports fan, because I am a huge Boston Red Sox fan, and in 1986, it looked like the curse of the Bambino was finally going to end, because the Red Sox had not won a World Series since 1918, and in the 10th inning of the '86 World Series, the Red Sox were up 5-3. Wally Backman makes the first out. Keith Hernandez makes the second out. Gary Carter has an 0-2 count. So we have a 5-3 lead, 2 outs, nobody on, 1 strike away from winning the World Series. The New York Mets put up on the scoreboard, congratulations, Boston Red Sox, world champions. And then from my perspective, disaster set in. And the Mets rallied to beat the Red Sox. And then it rained the next day, and then Game 7 came, and every Red Sox fan knew, since we blew Game 6, we had no shot in the world to win Game 7. And of course, the Red Sox lost Game 7, and the Mets won the World Series. So yes, Jack, I do remember the '86 World Series. I had many nights. I didn't sleep for about 3 months after that. I had nightmares. I couldn't sleep. We were so close. But thanks for bringing that up, Jack. I really appreciate it. But talk about your connection with 1986 and the Mets.
Well, I'm never coming back on this show. Now, I'm going to give you one thing that you're going to like about that World Series. Okay. So the backup catcher to Gary Carter is a man named Ed Hearn.
Okay.
Long story short, I met him. My aunt lived near the Hall of Fame, so we used to go up to the Hall of Fame weekend and get some autographs as a kid. This guy's on the street selling his book. And then we're just killing time. My dad walks over, he's flipping through his book. He sees a thing about kidney transplants. And then he starts talking to him. Turns out Ed Hearn, he had 3 kidney transplants. I forget what kind of cancer, but he had cancer and a hip replacement after his career. So we became, I've known him since I was literally like this big. So we've become very close. He's the only professional athlete who's now a certified speaking professional. So he's been motivational speaking for a while. So I always figured I was gonna follow his footsteps after comedy anyway, but he's helping me out a lot with that. So pretty much Ed is the reason I got into motivational speaking as well. So.
By the way, I want to mention this, that since you brought that up, that a former New York Met legend, Rusty Staub, is fighting for his life and needs a kidney transplant in Florida. So our hopes and prayers are with Rusty Staub, and we hope he gets a transplant, because the reports in the newspapers are that he's gravely ill. So hope he gets the transplant. But that. So have you met any other members of the '86 Mets through Ed Hearn?
Yeah. I've met a bunch when they do like reunions from the '86 team and stuff. It's funny when we hang out because we had a lot of the same, you know, three transplants, cancer, hip replacement. He introduces me like, hey, this is my friend Jack. He's me, just younger. So, but it's weird because he's huge. He's like 6'3". His hand is like as big as my face. But, yeah. So when he does signings, I'll hang out with him. I'm always like his guest. And it's funny, not many people know of him. So sometimes he's the add-on autograph, and then every once in a while when he's like $15, they're like, Ed, you're $15 this time. He's like, awesome, yeah. So it's right.
I'll tell you, next time you're going to hang out with, I would love to do a show that day. I mean, that would be really cool. I mean, even though it would drudge up a lot of bad memories for me being a Red Sox fan, his story is so inspirational, and the fact that you're connected with him, it would just be beautiful to have a show with you and Ed Hearn together.
Yeah, if he's ever in town, he was the guy traded for David Cohn, so he just stayed in Kansas City. But I'm sure he'd be cool with it. He likes doing stuff like this as well. So I'll ask him next time he's in town.
That is so cool. And talk about what it's like when you're making a motivational speech in front of a large crowd. Talk about the feeling you get talking about your inspirational story and sharing it and inspiring so many people. What's that like?
It's really cool. You asked me who has me doing motivational speeches. I do a lot with New York's Organ Donor Network, or they're now called Live On New York. So I try to inspire people to become organ donors, since a lot of people aren't, and there's a lot of people waiting. And then recently I've done a lot with Hope and Heroes, Columbia's Pediatric Cancer Foundation. They just had me in Vermont in January at their big gala thing, whatever they call it, I forgot, but it was cool. It's like 100+ people. It's like weird when you go from comedy to speaking, because comedy is harder, but it's still an adjustment sometimes. I have this like internal clock in my head, like, oh wait, I haven't heard a laugh in, you know, X amount of time, and then I start worrying, and I'm like, oh wait, I'm not doing a comedy show, I'm trying to like motivate people. So it's a bit of an adjustment sometimes, but it's a lot of fun. And like I said before, when I can use what I've been through for the better now, it really means a lot, and adds a lot of purpose to it. So I always enjoy it.
Well, you know what? When I started this show back in 2010, you know, I wanted to have a show that really made a difference in the community, and I wanted to meet people that made a difference and inspired others. And you are the living example of why we do this show, to bring in a person like yourself who's been through so much, yet who has so much to give to so many other people. You truly are a great inspiration. Your story is unbelievable, and the fact that you help so many people is just a wonderful thing. We hope that you're going to come back to us many times in the future, and we'll keep getting your story out there. It's a wonderful, inspirational story, and we thank you for sharing with us today.
Oh, well, thank you very much for having me. It took a couple of tries to get here, but I'm really glad that you had me on here. You can follow more of my story on Facebook at Jack Clooney Comedy. And also, keep watching this show. This is a great show. So I really appreciate you having me. And as I end all my shows, when life throws you hardships, you can either laugh or cry. And trust me, laughing's a whole lot more fun. And remember to think about becoming an organ donor too, because it really works. Thank you.
Yeah. And let me close with this. My friend Joe Satriano and my friend Scott Ferrone, they're really big Yankee fans. And when Game 7 happened in 2004, when the Red Sox made the Yankees the only team in baseball history to blow a 3-0 lead and lose a 7-game series being up 3-0. Joe cried and Scott cried. So we'll end it on that really nice note.